Hello, everyone, and welcome to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson, the personal finance show focused on moving you forward financially. We're talking about an interesting question on today's show. Does money buy happiness? I can almost hear our viewers replying with a resounding yes, that's of course true. And, well, research shows it actually depends. Joining me to discuss the latest research is a well-known Canadian money expert, chartered professional accountant, sought-after keynote speaker, and award-winning and best-selling author of The Wisest Investment, Teaching Your Kids to Be Responsible, Independent, and Money Smart for Life. Robin Taub, welcome to Money Matters, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Shannon.
Before we get into what we're going to be talking about, can you share with us a little bit more about your background?
Certainly. So as you mentioned, I am an accountant by training, a CPA, but I'm not your typical accountant, and I actually don't practice anymore. I have, and when I did, I worked in tax, and then I went on to work in the real estate industry, and after that, I worked at Citibank Canada in derivatives marketing. But today, as you mentioned, I focus on financial literacy, helping parents, grandparents, financial advisors, wealth managers, really anyone who cares about the young people in their lives, teach them to be responsible, independent, and money smart for life.
Do you do a lot of media and public speaking events as well?
I do, and podcasts and all kinds of stuff to get the message out about making the wisest investment.
I love that. Now, just to go back, what was the inspiration behind your book?
So The Wisest Investment is an update to a book that I wrote 13 years ago, which was called A Parent's Guide to Raising Money Smart Kids. And I was commissioned to write that book by CPA Canada, the governing body of accountants in Canada. And they wanted to do something to help parents teach their kids about money. They had done research which showed that 78% of parents had tried to teach their kids, but 2/3 didn't feel they'd been particularly successful at it, and more than half didn't know what information they needed. So this book was filling a gap, a need in the marketplace.
Well, that's really interesting because I think you're right in that there is a gap there where I think parents and families need a little bit more guidance when it comes to educating their kids in particular about managing their money. So I think that's great. So today we're talking about, does money buy happiness? And I mentioned in the opening, I have no doubt the majority of our viewers are saying, yes, this is absolutely true. Money will buy me happiness. But the research shows that this is not always the case. There is a correlation between money and being happy. And that's really been the focus of studies for decades. And while the study that we're focusing on today was conducted in the United States, it does have universal implications. Because, of course, let's face it, most people believe money will bring us that happiness. So, Robin, why do you think that so many people have this thought about money bringing us happiness?
Because I think people believe that if they only made more money or had more money, it would solve a lot of their problems. And the old research showed that money did buy happiness up until about $75,000, after which it plateaued. Now, that's the research that has now come into question and has been revised. But at the time, it was felt that, up to $75,000, you could cover your basic needs. And once people's basic needs were covered, having more money didn't necessarily translate into being happier. But now that has been revised, and what they're showing is that actually it doesn't plateau at $75,000, that having more money can actually make you happier in the sense that you feel better on a day-to-day basis, and also you feel more satisfied with life and more fulfilled overall. So that's what's new here. And I think that it is about feeling like you wouldn't have to worry about making ends meet, about paying your bills, about paying your mortgage, about what inflation is at, if you made more or had more money. So, money, as you know, it's the number one source of stress right now. At level double those for things like stress over health or relationships or work. So I think it's that connection between, if I had more money, I'd be less stressed.
I think that's true, where money can definitely solve a lot of issues, especially for a family who is, struggling to get by. And so this new research that came out of Princeton University and the University of Pennsylvania, having more money or a higher income, it was associated with higher happiness. But like you mentioned just previously, it's sort of to varying degrees. And so for most people, larger incomes are associated with greater happiness. But like I just mentioned as well, for those families that are struggling day by day just to get by, I mean, obviously for them, having a higher income would improve their well-being. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yes, I would. For the
Yeah.
reasons that we just discussed, because money stress can lead to other physical health problems. I mean, there's research that shows that more than half of Canadians have lost sleep over money worries, but it can lead to more serious health problems like high blood pressure, heart disease, and then health problems can lead to financial problems. It can become a vicious cycle. So I do believe that it can really make a difference, especially if people are struggling financially.
Yeah. And you talked there about there seemed to be sort of a threshold for that income level where the previous studies said if you hit about $75,000 of income, you increase in happiness up until that point. But then after that point, your happiness didn't really change in any way, even if your income improved. How has this study adjusted that opinion?
Right. So this is they kind of broke it down and they looked at how happy people were. So they looked at different cohorts. So for the least happy group, happiness will rise with income until 100,000 and then shows no further increase in happiness as your income grows. For people who are in the middle range of emotional well-being, then their happiness did increase linearly with their income. And for those who were in the happiest group, then their happiness actually accelerated above 100,000. So that kind of tells me that it's more about how you're feeling to begin with. So happy people who are already happy will get happier with more money, whereas people who are already unhappy, probably for other reasons, money isn't going to buy them happiness. And if you're in the middle, it seems to correlate.
It's interesting because we sort of need to look at the root of our well-being and how we are actually feeling and what the source of that is. And if the source of that is perhaps material things, I think it sounds like we can get to a point where our happiness will increase up to that point, but then it's going to plateau. But perhaps maybe if our happiness is rooted in other immaterial things, then we have that opportunity that as our income increases, our general well-being or happiness will also increase with that. So, of course, with most things, there's always the exception. And the same is proven in this research. It shows that many people who are financially well off, some of them are actually still not happy. And I'm sure our viewers really, when you really think about that, they maybe have friends or family members or something who are financially secure. They don't need to worry about their finances. They don't need to worry about money. They're living comfortably, but they're not actually happy. And we sort of touched on this about, what is the source of that happiness? In your experience, at least in your accounting career, or now in your career as a public speaker and an educator, do you find that the results of this current study correlate with what you're seeing in the public?
Yes, because money is just one factor in determining how happy you are. And it's not even the most important one. That's what's so interesting about this research. So what they've discovered, and I don't think this is a new discovery, but probably a confirmation, is that social relationships and connection are the most important factors in your overall happiness. So when it comes to having a lot of money, that's true. A lot of people are not particularly happy or fulfilled by these material things. And I think it goes back to purpose. So everybody needs a why, a sense of purpose. And often when there's a lot of money, it can smooth the way, or you've already achieved so many goals if you've made that money yourself. And sometimes people tend to feel like they've lost their sense of purpose or their why. So I think that it goes back to your values, which are the things that are most important to you, that you're willing to take a stand for. And when you live your values, or when you live in alignment with your values, everything has purpose, including money. So I think sometimes that people who are unhappy, even though they are not struggling financially, they have everything they could ever want, it's possibly because they're not living in line with their values. There's that dissonance, or they don't have any longer a sense of purpose, like a clear sense of their why.
I would agree with that. I mean, in my professional life, as someone that helps people with their debt, basically almost everyone that comes to see me is in that level of unhappiness where they're struggling to get by and they don't know what to do. And so in what I do, I can help them with that piece. I can help them with the money side. I can help them get rid of that debt. And then from there, I'm sure they get a relief of, okay, I feel better with the choice I've made. I feel better with how I'm managing my finances moving forward. And then from there, if they can increase their happiness in some way, whether that's an increase in income, whether that's reevaluating our values and changing how we think about things, I think there is that opportunity there. Unfortunately, I don't often get to see the people that come in and they're happy with where they are, and they're ready to maybe look at some investments and things like that to handle their money in different ways. I see the unhappy side most of the time, but the result of what I can do for them leads to that happiness, and hopefully will continue to move forward as they move through their lives. And so I think from both of our different perspectives, we can see different ways that this research sort of correlates in how we deal with the public on a daily basis. And so I know that there's likely viewers out there who are saying, no way, if I had money, I could buy my happiness and that would solve everything, and everything would work perfectly. But the question, and I think we've been getting to that over this first segment, is, would you truly be happy? And we're going to get into that in our next segment. And also how you can take the findings of this research and use them to your advantage. When Money Matters returns after the break.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Focus better.
Partner better.
Sleep better.
Breathe better.
Love better. Work better. Friend better. Unwind better.
Everything gets better when you get active.
Welcome back to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. My guest today is Robin Taub, chartered professional accountant, sought-after keynote speaker, and award-winning author. And we've been discussing a recent study that focuses on the correlation between money and happiness. And this is a debate that is decades old. So as you heard in the first half, researchers from the University of Pennsylvania and Princeton University did find an association between larger incomes and greater happiness for most people. That both a happy majority and an unhappy minority exist. Now, for the happy majority, the research suggests that happiness keeps rising as more money comes in. But for the unhappy minority, happiness improves as income rises, but only up to a certain income threshold. And after that, there doesn't appear to be any improvement in happiness, no matter how much income might go up. And Robin, we talked earlier that there are many who believe that money does equate to happiness. And some will even say, if I had money, I could buy my happiness. I wouldn't have any problems. But are they really buying happiness? And we know that some people, when they're down, maybe they'll do a little bit of shopping. They're looking for that impulse buying experience. But we know this can hurt our wallet. And so, Robin, what's your advice to viewers who think that they can buy happiness and they're searching for that gratification?
Right. So are you buying lasting happiness or fleeting temporary happiness? And usually when you buy stuff, I'll call it material possessions, it's fleeting because it feels good and it's exciting, waiting for that package to arrive. But then it usually loses its luster over time because you realize that there's better things or other things out there that you still want. So the answer really is that money can buy happiness. And I talk about this in my book if you use it in 3 ways. So one is to buy experiences over stuff. So do things, take a trip or go to a concert. Tonight I'm going to a concert with my brother, for example. I have a trip planned in October. So doing things like that. I visited my son at work last weekend. He works at a live event and we saw a concert there too. So just doing things, sporting events, whatever you like to do. So that's the first thing. The second is to spend money on other people. So to buy someone a treat or a gift or something that they want. Spending money on others tends to make you happy, and spending your money to save time. So again, time is such a precious resource. And if you, spend money to just get rid of some errands or some tasks that take up a lot of time, that gives you more time and freedom to do the things that are more fulfilling and satisfying and that make you happy. So I think that money can buy happiness if you use it strategically in those 3 ways.
I like that you say that we should maybe prioritize in those 3 ways, where there is the experience, there is giving to others. I like that idea because we don't often think about that, where we often are looking for that self-gratification, but you're absolutely right. If you are, maybe you're contributing to a charity that you fully believe in, or like you say, you're helping friends and family, or, you give a gift to a family member, that gives you that gratification as well. So that's interesting. It sounds like really, if we're looking for that happiness level, we want to maybe reevaluate our motivation behind that. Would you agree?
Yes, I would. And it is challenging. I'm not going to say that it's not tempting to think that spending your money on stuff isn't going to make you happy, because we are bombarded with advertising, with social media, which, we live in a world that stresses instant gratification and consumption. And the media tries to convince us that our wants are actually needs and that you deserve it and all this stuff. So it is really tempting and easy to spend your money that way. But again, it goes back to your values. If you're clear on your values and you use them as an invisible framework to help guide and prioritize financial decisions and set meaningful goals, I think in the end, you will tend to be more fulfilled, more satisfied, because there's that alignment that I talked about earlier.
I think that setting goals is very important. Where and write them down. There's studies done that if you write your goals down, you have a higher likelihood of being able to achieve them. So I think that's really important, that you should write those goals down and what they mean to you as you move forward. So I think that's a really good point. So for those who are in that mindset where they can buy their way to happiness, I think we maybe need to caution that it can lead to some financial challenges and perhaps some struggles if they really think that. Do you have any advice for viewers about what we should sort of be keeping in mind and maybe caution them about?
Well, I think especially for our kids and even, adults ourselves, if we do spend time on social media, as I said, you're getting bombarded now with like so much advertising, and then there's often the ability to purchase right in the app. So this is called social commerce, and it's frictionless. So you might want to put some restrictions on those types of things, because it's just so easy to spend money and it does add up. Again, our minds automatically make these upward social comparisons where we compare ourselves unfavorably with people that have more, and we try to keep up with the Joneses. And I'm sure you see that a lot, Shannon, in your work. And it can lead to a lot of spending on things that we can't afford because we think that we'll be, cool, or we'll fit in and we'll be happy. But as you said, if you can't afford it, if you're putting on a credit card, it just can it can destroy your budget. It can lead to a lot of consumer debt. So again, our minds don't automatically make downward comparisons. Like, we don't automatically feel grateful and appreciative for what we have, but that's a practice that is really important to develop, a gratitude practice, and to make that a habit. So I would encourage people to, use your values, to make sure that you are spending in line with what's most important to you, and then try and resist social media or put restrictions on how much of that you're using or doing, and then maybe try and start a gratitude practice, whether it's journaling or, just going around the dinner table and sharing something that you're grateful for every evening.
Some of the things that I had thought about were exactly like you said. We may end up spending money that we don't have. Maybe we're accumulating more debt in order to reach that sort of happiness level that we're looking for. Part of that could also end up being, well, if you're accumulating things, maybe now this is cluttering your home, and now you're feeling feelings of maybe regret or shame or things like that. And you'd mentioned something earlier about how money can buy you comfort, but it can't buy you time. And that was one of the things that you mentioned, where you prioritize those three things. And I think that was the third one that you mentioned, where you spend your money on things that can give you more time.
Yes.
So I think it's important that viewers sort of evaluate the motivation behind what is the happiness that you're looking for. Is it actually that money that's going to bring you that, or perhaps it'll be something else? And so that's one of the great things about these research and the study that they do, is it does give us a chance to reflect and evaluate, and sometimes we learn some new lessons. And so, based on the findings of this particular research, what lessons do you think that we can learn from this? How can we use this study to our advantage?
If you're struggling with feelings, of dissatisfaction or lack of fulfillment or purpose, I think it's a good opportunity to look into what is really important to you and what your values are, and to start using those more in a financial sense than you may have before. Because a lot of people don't necessarily think about using their values to help guide and prioritize financial decisions. And you can make it, once you determine what they are, you can make them front of mind. You can even use structures like a sticky note to just with your top 5 values, or a goal setting worksheet that you create from those values to remind you and to help you keep the decisions that you make aligned with your values. I think another thing it's a great opportunity also to put more maybe time and energy into your relationships. And I think that the tip about using money to buy experiences, and the fact that relationship and connection is a more important determinant of happiness than money, those go together. So perhaps it's an opportunity to use your money to share experiences with the people you really care about, and to do things with them and to have some fun. It doesn't have to be expensive. You could just go for a hike in nature. I mean, that's got to double effect, because being in nature is really good for feelings of calm and peacefulness. So there's so many ways to combine the two things. I think the experiences, giving to others, and having deeper, closer relationships to make us feel happier and more satisfied overall.
Do you think it's also advantageous to maybe set up almost like a pro and con list? If you're thinking that a purchase of some kind is going to give you some kind of satisfaction, would you recommend that we maybe reevaluate and do a bit of a pro con list to see whether having that is worth the offset of perhaps having the stress of monthly payments or maybe accumulating debt or something like that? Would you recommend something like that?
I would. And a colleague of mine named Karen Holland has actually developed something like that to help anyone, but she's focused a lot on young people decide if a purchase is really worth it. And she calls it the DIMS score, which stands for doesn't make sense score. And it steps you through, like, how much is it? How much will I use it? Have I thought through the full cost of it, including sales tax or other things, even for experiences? So her website's called giftingsense.org, and it is a non-for-profit. She does workshops too, but I recommend check out this DIMS score. Kids have also used it when they want a gift from their parents for Christmas or birthday. They use it to evaluate whether, that gift is really something that will make them happy and make the gift giver happy. So yes, great idea.
I appreciate that. Now we only have a little bit of time left. Do you have any final thoughts for our viewers?
I do. Again, I would really recommend, if you've never done one before, doing a values exercise. And I have one for free on my website, robintaub.com, and it's called the Values Validator. If you go to that website, it will pop right up. And again, it's 20 questions that will help you determine what your values are, whether it's things like education, adventure, security, health, family. I think there's 20. So I recommend doing that and starting to think a little more consciously about your values.
You just mentioned your website. Is there any other way that people can connect with you, and how can people get your book?
Yes. So the website that I mentioned was robintaub.com, Robin with an I, Taub. I have another website just for the book, and it's called thewisestinvestment.com. And I'm on social media, mostly LinkedIn, and you'll find me there as well, Robin Taub.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your advice with our viewers. And I also want to thank you, our viewers, for being here. Until next time, I'm Shannon Jackson.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
I'm Nicole Martin, the proud ambassador for the Comfort Bear program. Comfort Bears provide these cuddly bears to local children who are terminally ill.